You know, we talk a lot about what makes a good leader. We talk about strategy, power, effectiveness. But have you ever thought about leadership as a mercy? Today, we're going to dive deep into that idea by looking at the life and especially the final moments of one of history's most towering figures, Umar ibn al-Khattab. We're going to explore leadership not as a position you hold, but as a profound trust you carry.
And this whole idea is captured perfectly in this incredible quote from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who is one of the most brilliant scholars among the Prophet's companions. Now think about it. He doesn't just say Umar's rule was good or just. He specifically chooses the word mercy. That single word, mercy, frames an entire legacy, and it's really the key to understanding the man behind the title of caliph.
So what does a rule of mercy actually look like? Well, it comes straight from the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who taught that leadership is an amana, a sacred trust. It's not about gaining power for yourself. It's about using that power for compassion, for justice, for service. And Omar's life was a masterclass in this, especially when he faced his final, ultimate test.
Okay, let's zoom in and set the scene here. Umar has just been fatally stabbed while he's leading the morning prayer. He's in excruciating pain. He knows his life is ending. And it's in moments like these, right, when everything else is stripped away, that's when you see who a person truly is.
So a young man rushes to his side, trying to comfort him by listing all his incredible achievements as a leader. But look at Omar's reply. There's zero pride. He's not taking any comfort in his worldly legacy. All he can think about is his final judgment, just hoping he can break even. But what happens next is what's truly mind-blowing. As the young man turns to walk away, Omar notices that his lower garment is dragging on the ground. And even in this state of agony, he calls him back to give him this little piece of advice. This wasn't about being picky. This was an act of genuine care, fulfilling that moral duty taught by the Prophet to encourage what is good. A duty he upheld, literally, until his last breath.
And that brings us to the real question here. I mean, in the face of death, with the weight of an entire empire on his mind, why would he focus on something that seems so small? What does that tell us about the very foundation of his character and his leadership?
Well, the thing is, his actions weren't just random impulses. They were the result of a whole lifetime of deep, deep learning and a profound humility that was forged by that very knowledge. You see, Umar wasn't just a ruler. He was one of the most respected scholars of his entire generation.
Let's go back to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud for a second. He didn't just call Omar's rule a mercy. He also gave this absolutely stunning assessment of his intellect. To say someone took 9/10 of knowledge, I mean, that's about the highest praise you could possibly give. It shows that every single one of his actions, even the smallest correction to a young man, was rooted in deep wisdom and understanding. And all that knowledge, you know what it led to? Deep, profound humility. He understood how dangerous praise could be for the soul. When his own daughter and others started praising him on his deathbed, he actually stopped them. He reminded them of the Prophet's teaching that being praised can be a spiritual burden. He didn't see it as an honor. He saw it as a test he just couldn't bear in his final moments.
And this unique mix of knowledge, humility, and principled action, it left a huge impression on everyone around him. So let's not just take my word for it. Let's see how his legacy was viewed through the eyes of the people who actually knew him best.
I mean, listen to this from Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. She didn't just see him as a good administrator. She saw his very existence as something special, as if he was purpose-built to strengthen the entire community. To her, he was a pillar of Islam itself.
And then you've got Hudhayfa, who was known as the keeper of the Prophet's secrets. He makes this direct connection. During Omar's rule, the respect and standing of the whole community was on the rise. See, his leadership wasn't just about him. It lifted everybody up with him.
And this last testimony from Qubaysa really brings it all home. It takes us back to the source of everything. His companions saw him as just unparalleled in his knowledge of the Quran. And this wasn't just some academic thing. This was the living, breathing foundation for his justice, his wisdom, and ultimately his mercy.
Now, whenever you have a figure this important, this significant, you're going to get debates. History isn't just a collection of nice quotes. It's also about digging into complex and sometimes controversial stories. And in the case of Umar's death, there's one particular story that really needs a closer look.
So the accusation revolves around a man named Ka'b al-Ahbar. He was a very well-known scholar who came from a Jewish background and had converted to Islam.
A certain historical report suggests that he went to Umar and predicted his death within 3 days, claiming he read it in the Torah. This has led some people to believe he was actually in on the assassination plot.
But historians have really taken this claim apart, piece by piece. Let's just walk through the logic. First off, Umar was famously intelligent. He would have immediately investigated a claim that specific. Second, other people knew the Torah too. If this prophecy existed, Ka'b wouldn't be the only one who knew about it. Third, and this is just common sense, who announces their own conspiracy before it happens? And finally, the most direct points. The Torah is a book of divine guidance, not a fortune teller's crystal ball. And to this day, no such prediction has ever been found in any version of it.
So when you strip away all the myths and the noise, you're left with this portrait, summarized so beautifully by the modern writer al-Ahbar. And it really gets to the heart of Umar's legacy. In him, you had immense power, unwavering justice, and profound mercy. And these things weren't competing with each other, they were all part of the same whole.
And this brings us right back to where we started. Umar's entire life was basically an embodiment of this Quranic principle, a principle that was at the very core of the Prophet's teachings about leadership. He understood that true authority, real justice, all goodness, it all comes from divine mercy. His job as a leader wasn't to create his own power, but to be a channel for that mercy, to serve justice and the community he was given as a trust.
It's a legacy that leaves us with a pretty timeless question, doesn't it? If we look beyond strategy and charisma and raw power, what does it really mean for leadership to be mercy? Not just back then, but today, in politics, in our communities, even in our own lives. That's definitely something worth thinking about.